And
Hey.
hey, there it is.
There it is.
Calling Chris Anderson you're in WN
I am. I'm in Studio W1.
W1. I thought it had an N in it. It's not WN1, it's Studio W1.
W1. Yeah.
Okay. In
This
Windsor.
is now, yeah, in Windsor. And you are?
Where do you think I am?
You're like batting 1,000, man. You've been home for way too long.
I'll be hitting the road in the not too distant future. Don't worry.
Okay.
Welcome everybody to History Happy Hour. Thanks to Stephen Ambrose Tours for helping to bring you this show. And check out the rich offering of military history tours at stephenambrosetours.com. And whether you're watching live, watching on replay, or listening on the HHH
podcast.
Yeah, there you go. We're glad you're here today. We hope to be talking about the rescue of Denmark's Jews. Our guest is having some technical problems, so we may not be talking about that. But
we will be at some point. But
we will give him a minute or so to see if he can't get on to join us, and then we'll, if we can't get him on this time, we'll bring him back another time. So we're definitely drinking at this point. What are you drinking, Chris Anderson?
Well, since I've been up in Scotland for 2 weeks, I went to some new distilleries. So this is Falkirk Distillery, single malt. So
okay,
giving this a try.
All right.
And you?
I've got a Glenmorangie. I have a big glass here.
Wow, you do, man.
Quinta Reuben. Yeah, well, I haven't had any yet, but I'm going to definitely have a knockback
That's a blend,
now.
Though. That's a blend, though, isn't it?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Single malt.
Good for you. All right.
I'm like the guys in The Great Escape. Yeah, it's good. Anyway, Chris, we should thank everybody who supports us via Patreon, including our top shelf patrons. And Chris, these are all our top shelf patrons. Thank you very much. And you can become a top shelf patron by going to patreon.com/historyhappyhour. And what do you get, Chris, if you become a top shelf patron?
Well, one would hope that you get a hat. Do we have more hats? Oh, look at that.
I am reaching down into the box, and I have hats.
Wow.
Hats.
Are those new colors or same colors?
It's navy blue, which is what we had. Half of our hats were navy blue last time.
Yeah.
And we talked about red. We did talk about that. But
you just ignored my suggestion?
No. Oh, no. You can't do this because I have the emails. Because then I sent you the colors and I said, what color? And you said, how about blue? So
okay.
It was you.
So you saved my email.
It was you. Shit. It was you. You're the one who suggested, but everybody will like the blue one. So we have many more blue hats. And if you guys want to join us in our pirate crew, we have many hats that we can send out. And if you join us as a top shelf patron, we'll put a hat to you in the mail right away, and you can wear it and enjoy seeing that, etc. Chris, I'm gonna. I know we don't usually bring her live on the show. I'm just going to check with Cheryl and see if she gives us an update on how our guest is doing.
Well, okay.
And she just disappeared.
She's denied you. Yeah.
She dropped her camera out.
She's like, I'm done with this.
Wow, this is quite the day.
But I wanted to say, for those of you who are here, I'm really happy to see Frank. Frank Cook is joining us from Attleboro because Frank started out on the Scotland trip and had to go home unexpectedly. So I'm glad to see that he's doing well and enjoying things from Attleboro. And Jim Booton from Ontario, because I like people joining us from Canada. So good to see.
Excellent.
Yeah. And Cheryl is joined us. And Cheryl, we're still talking about SOE, so all's good there. So,
You're getting a plane like every 30 seconds coming over you.
I know. Well, so usually Heathrow, they switch landing patterns, and guess where tonight's landing?
Oh, yeah. And Frank is recovering from surgery, so I guess that was all related to his leaving your trip. So, yes. Frank, we're glad you're recovered enough. We hope that this show doesn't set you back at all. Okay. Well, Chris, I think we have to kind of get the show started. So, why don't you give me a cue and we'll sort of blunder forward here.
well, the bar, but not much
The
of the
bar
show
is
is
open,
open.
but I think our guest is not going to be able to join us. I got a text from Cheryl, and
Oh,
if he does, it's fine.
okay.
He's out there, Tim, you're out there, and you find a way to get in, we'll take you. But we can also reschedule you.
Yes, we will.
Um, we'll see if our audience wants to stay, or if at this point they all decide that they're going to go watch some football game. But what I would ask you guys in our audience is give us some questions, and we'll put some answers to
We'll
those
do our
questions.
best.
We'll
Yeah.
try to see what we can do. So it's a free form show with zero preparations. So
History
like
Happy
it,
Hour Jazz.
History Happy Hour going live here. And
Mm.
so listen, but before as people are now saving up the hard questions that they've saved up and preparing them for us. Chris, you just got back from Scotland, so you saw
I did.
the tattoo, which you hadn't seen in 2 years. So how was it? What was new this year?
Well, this year we had it was fantastic. It was the 75th anniversary, so it was a big
Wow.
show. Weather was great. 100 plus pipers, and we had the old guard there this year. Third Infantry was there, so that was kind of neat to
Oh,
see.
fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. So
Fantastic.
it was
I
good. And
love
I heard,
oh, go
no,
ahead.
go ahead. No, I just somebody. It was crazy, insanely busy, and our Scottish guide said that this year, um, Edinburgh Castle got more visitors than the Vatican, which I think is kind of insane.
Wow. Wow. It
Um,
was busy when I was there last year, but I don't think it was quite that busy. I did love the moment where there's the lone piper
yes.
in the tattoo, and we were there on the first night of the tattoo when it's the media night, so it's half price
Mm.
tickets, and there's photographers running around on the fields,
Oh
but
yeah, yeah.
you immediately lose sight of the photographers and and just enjoy the show. So that was great. So we have a question. So I'm gonna. This is a question here from Bill G. And Bill had said earlier, I've got a big question if it comes up. So
Okay.
Bill says, a friend and I have been debating this question. At what point does Eisenhower call off the in progress D-Day landings? In other words, what would have been the potential scenario that could have brought him to that decision? And was there one? So, um,
Well, go ahead.
great
You want me?
question. And
Yeah.
I defer to the senior historian for Stephen Ambrose
Oh,
first.
oh, but I'm
You,
not. I'm not
you
the senior historian.
you get to go first.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't. I have never come across any reference or plan to a plan B. So I don't think there was ever any thought out or prepared plan to evacuate. I think that the decision to, or the potential decision to pull people off, um, had a lot riding on what happened at Omaha Beach. You know, about I think it's a he Bradley has an observer there by about what 8:30 or 10 something 8:30 I think.
Yeah,
He says
and
they got
yeah, between 8:30 and 10.
yeah, and he come and he sees that it's a mess, and he goes back to Bradley and says it's a mess, and I know at that point Bradley is considering pulling people off. But I think if Omaha Beach fails, then that's it.
Yeah, I
Call it.
think if the Germans had, I mean, the Germans make a late in the day. They actually get to the beach, not Omaha Beach, but up in the British sector.
Right.
They have a group that gets to the beach, and then the gliders are coming over, and they think, "Oh my God, they're bringing all these gliders to attack us, so we're going to retreat," and they retreat. But if the Germans had gotten to the beach at Omaha Beach and been able to defend that, in other words, to cut off Omaha Beach, to divide people there, and so then you've got Utah all out on their own way out. It seems to me, and I'm not sure it would have gotten to Eisenhower. I think it might have, Bradley might have lost his nerve at that point. I mean, that
Right.
seems possible.
Well, I mean, there are some
Um,
historians that say that Bradley actually does make a call to the Eighth Air Force to say, give me a mission, I'm pulling off. Um, but but I also think the other thing that I always mention on my trips is at Point du Hoc, because while the guns are important, I think one of the things that doesn't get talked about enough is the roadblock up there at the end of Ranger Road. Um, and if that isn't in place, or if that gets wiped away, then all of those Germans over in Grand Camp can come down the Verville Draw. which is potentially not a nice thing.
Yeah, so that is, but my question on that is, what I've always wondered is the Germans managed by June 7th, midday, they've taken that road again, right? They've driven
Yep.
the Rangers back into the sector around where the fortifications are. Why don't they at that point march down the road and attack towards the Veerville Draw?
Well, I think at that point you've got two things going on. One, you've got a well enough established beachhead at Omaha Beach that they don't have the power to knock them off of that. And then I also think that there's such chaos in the German high command at that point that there's no central figure really directing the traffic. And remember, on the 7th, they still think that the landings are a feint in support of other landings. So I think they're still waiting to see.
Well, something that I've been reading because I'm going to be leading a tour in a couple of weeks that includes Battle of the Bulge, and so we're going to be following the route of Camp Group Piper.
Yes.
And one of the interesting things about that, as you read it, is that the power of delay, right? So every hour that the Americans delay the Germans is an hour of preparation that they can. Not at first, because at first they're confused and they don't know what's going on. But you've got the Lanzerath crew delays Piper's group by at least 12 hours from getting out, maybe 18 hours. They get on, they go to Hansfeld, they go on to, of course, the massacre at the Bagnez Crossroads in Malmedy, and then they get to Stavelot, and they think that they can see across the river in Stavelot a heavy American presence because the Americans are desperately trying to take all the fuel at the fuel dump there and get rid of it. And Piper decides to hold on there, and so it's 9 o'clock at night. He does not attack. Well, they try to attack across, and they can't. So he buttons everything up until morning, and they attack across in the morning. But they lose another 10 hours there. And all this time now, the 30th Division is moving in, the 82nd Division is moving in, and in a couple of days, they're just totally going to take those guys out. So delay can count a lot. So if you delay the Germans, as you say, at Pointe du Hoc, you delay them by a day, that might be all you need.
Yep.
Do you have a question here you want to, or something you want to say?
No, I hope that at least helps add fuel to Bill's argument with his friend. So, yeah.
Okay. I'm looking for another question here. We had a, yeah, so it's just looking through. So okay, Wally Morrison wants to know,
Yes.
what made the Germans believe that the Allies had the capacity to do a feint in Normandy and then land at Pas de Calais? And I think this is a really interesting question, because the whole idea of the Operation Fortitude deception is we're going to land at Pas de Calais. Then they come ashore on 5 beaches over 50 miles with 175,000 troops. That might be a sign that it's no Dunkirk, right? That it's a serious invasion effort. So what makes the Germans think that the Americans have the force that they could then land a bigger force at Pas de Calais?
Because they have shit intelligence.
Have they executed Canaris by this point?
No, I mean, the fortitude works, and it's not until July that they really are sure that it's Normandy, and they do this slow drip of 15th Army into the Normandy front because they're saving them for other anticipated landings, and they grossly overestimate Allied capabilities logistically, and that's why, I think.
So they believe that there are far more, presumably American soldiers in the UK than there actually are.
Yes.
But presumably I'm just pursuing this argument because I'm a thinking person. Presumably they are looking at the number of ships crossing the Atlantic. They've got people who can do math. Why can't they figure out that there can't be an extra million people that they seem to think are in England
Well, if you look
that they
at the
couldn't
German,
possibly be there.
no, but if you look at German intelligence assessments, they grossly overestimate the number of Allied troops in England. Right? So they think that there are more. They're convinced that there are more people than there are, and I think fortitude feeds into that. Really poor intelligence, the fact that we've turned all their agents, and the fact that they expect it to be pas de calais, and like so often happens, you kind
Get
of
a
read your
fixed picture.
yeah. Yeah. So that's my take.
Did you have a question that you wanted to pick?
Well, no, I mean, there's lots of questions uh, about tours that we're going to be doing. And then Lynn wants to know about the French effort to move Jews through southern France into Spain. Um, I can answer that one really quickly and say, no, there wasn't a French effort to move Jews through Spain. I mean, there were individual efforts probably by individual Frenchmen, but there's not much that the French do collectively to help save their
Well,
Jews.
one of
So,
the things we're going to talk, we're not talking today. If you're joining us late, our guest couldn't join us, so we're not talking about the rescue of the Jews in Denmark. But there are 8,000 Jews in Denmark, and they get 95% of them are able to escape across the water to Sweden. And it does seem like Denmark is an example, both with the Jews there, and then later when they have a few hundred Jews at Theresienstadt, and if that's how you say that, which I've never really known how to say it, um, and it seems like Denmark stands up to Germany, and like many bullies everywhere, the Germans suddenly back down in the face of somebody standing up to them. Am I misreading that, or is
well,
that? I feel like that's a
yeah,
really unique kind of
I think there's some
response by
unique,
a country.
yeah, I think there's some unique circumstances with Denmark, and I don't want to steal too much thunder from our guest because we want to have him back on to talk about this. But Denmark is close to Sweden, which is a big help. Um, the Germans don't really put the screws to Denmark in terms of occupation until later in the war. In fact, when they first take over the country, um, was the policy of cooperation between governments. So, they're not really kind of occupying them like they do other countries. So it's only much later during the occupation that it becomes more difficult. So I think that there are mitigating circumstances that make it somewhat easier for the Danes to do that. Having said all that, though, the Danish people do stand up for their fellow citizens, and they are courageous in that regard. And the fact that they spontaneously organize these rescue efforts. I mean, one of the things I mentioned I mentioned the author mentions in his book is that one of the greatest problems that the Danish resistance had was finding Jews to rescue. So they were determined to rescue these people before these people even knew how to find them. So
Yeah.
I think that's very admirable. But I do think that there are some unique circumstances there.
Yeah, but it is so again, without going into detail on that, it feels like, I mean, it doesn't feel like there's any other country that has a comparable story, even as
No,
part of their story. So
no,
there's individuals
yes,
who are responding to the circumstance of the Holocaust, and saying, I'm going to get involved, I'm going to help save some Jews. But there isn't sort of a country example where a large contingent of people from a country step up and help the Jews in their country.
correct. Um, yeah. So, and kind of picking up on that, Lynn wants to know if there was a Danish contingent in the German army. Yes, there were Danish SS, and you have parts of Denmark that are pretty much kind of border areas with Germany. So you have some Volksdeutsch, but every country in Europe raises some volunteers to fight for Germany, with the exception of Poland. And Poland, there are lots of Poles that serve in the German army, but they're conscripted. So as an aside, one of the things I'm really looking forward to is I was checking to get ready for my Poland trip, and there's a new exhibit at the Polish War Museum. I'm probably going to botch the title, but it's something like "They Were Our Sons," and it's about all of the Poles who were conscripted into the German army, fought in the German army, and never got kind of readmitted into the Polish body politic. And apparently, the exhibit is very, very controversial. And getting talked about quite a bit in Poland, so I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Well, one of the things that I was interested in was that somebody asked me if when we were in Arnhem, the last time I was in Arnhem, were there any Dutch that fought on the side of the Germans?
Oh my God, yes.
And there are, right? And there's
Lots.
the SS Wachtbattalion Dried Northwest was a unit of Dutch soldiers working for the SS. So there's actually a kind of a Dutch SS battalion, although they were poorly trained and basically incompetent and relieved of duty shortly after the fighting in Arnhem. And they had suffered 65% casualties. And I feel my heart goes out to them.
Well,
because,
yeah,
they've taken up the SS cause, but bold, but they're knocked down by it.
Well, there are other Dutch that serve with notable distinction in the East, but yeah, the Dutch battalion at Arnhem. In fact, some of the worst atrocities committed at Arnhem are committed by Dutch SS guys, not German. So, yeah.
So, well, Sharon, here's a question. I'm going to read it. I don't think I know the answer to it. So put it out there. So why didn't Hitler reallocate his divisions toward the Caucasus when the Eastern Front bogged down, since he was in need of the oil resources there? So the oil was in Romania, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't the oil in Romania? But didn't he have the Ploesti oil fields?
Well, he does, but I mean when you say things like reallocate, that means retreat, give up terrain, and move units around. He's just not wired.
He won't give up terrain.
He won't give up terrain in the East. So the argument can be made that he should have pulled back in the East much, much sooner and formed more defensible lines, but he's just not mentally prepared to do that. So I think that's a big part of the reason why he doesn't reallocate his resources. Right? He's got the whole no retreat, don't give up any ground mentality.
Yeah, which has served him so well in Russia.
Right.
And continues to serve him well.
I didn't say it was the right policy. I just said, yeah.
One of the things that's sort of interesting, I was going over my notes for the Market Garden to the Alps tour, and if any of you are going to be on that trip, we look forward to you being there. But that Hitler's first announcement of the Battle of the Bulge advance, that he doesn't call it that, of course, that he's going to do, is the day before
Operation Market Garden.
Operation Market Garden, September 16th, I think, 1944. And, so you can't say he's not thinking ahead. He's just not thinking very realistically.
Well, but I mean, by 1944, he's got no off-ramp. And so one of the criticisms that all the generals who loved him for the first, 4 or 5 years of the regime.
Oh, when it was all going so beautifully.
Yeah, right. Like, oh, well, if you don't listen to us, then everything would have been great. And, we shouldn't have attacked in the Ardennes. But he has to, because it's not like he can just defend Germany and we'll all say, okay, let's just call it a day. Right. So he has to radically alter the strategic situation. And the only way he's going to do that is by taking a gamble, which he'd done before. And that's part of the reason why he picks the Ardennes, because that was a place of emotional resonance to him, because that's where he launched his attack towards France from. So again, looking at it realistically, probably not the wisest move, but you're applying reason to a somewhat unreasonable situation.
We've probably talked about this before, but I'd be interested in your take on this. Is there a point that Hitler could have salvaged Nazi gains in World War II? So, for example,
okay,
if he had, if he'd invaded Poland and then not invaded France, or if he'd invaded France but made a really much more empathetic approach to the UK, really, really want to make a peace, really want to stop. Is there a point that Hitler could kind of stop, or is it just sort of inevitable that once he starts with Austria, because really that's where he starts, that once he starts with Austria, he's going to end up being bombed out in the bunker in Berlin?
Well, I think as soon as he goes into Poland, I think he has trouble. But I think, and this is a big what if, but I think he may still possibly have been able to survive that. But it's his going into the West, because I think that's basically I think that America would have been, would have gotten over the fact that Hitler had taken Poland, but they're never going to get over Hitler taking France and taking on Great Britain. And then of course you have the whole Pearl Harbor thing. But yeah, it's hard.
Well,
for me to see a scenario.
what if Hitler had said, "Hey, Japan, our treaty really doesn't cover it if you're attacking, so we're leaving you alone. Good luck fighting the Americans."
Well, that's kind of what he does anyway. So I mean, if
But he declares war on the U.S.
yeah,
So that opens the way for Franklin Roosevelt to declare war on him. But what if he doesn't do that?
first of all, if he wants to win the war and really kind of go gangbusters, both he and Imperial Japan have to make a much bigger deal of their alliance, right? There has to be some coordination and planning, even minimally, like we end up doing with the British. And then I think it's a much different scenario. But if he doesn't declare war on the United States, Japan's still going to do what Japan's going to do. And you remember we had, I'm ashamed, I can't remember the author's name, but we had the authors on the show quite a while ago about Pearl Harbor, and it was Hitler's American Gamble. And he makes a very good point that he said, that was a very carefully crafted, thought through, and in his mind, rational decision to attack America, because he sees America as one of the have nations, and he's a have-not nation, and he thinks that he has to strike them before we get too powerful. And if Japan wants to be the force that does that, then he's happy to do that.
But it seems like the ultimate analysis of World War II is that two countries that can't win a big war launch a big war.
Absolutely. I mean, there's that famous moment before when the Japanese make that the final go decision for Pearl Harbor, and they tell the emperor, "Well, we have a 50% chance of victory." I'm like, oh, okay. And, the entire survival of your nation is at stake, and you're banking on 50-50 odds.
Yeah, flip a coin.
Right. But the other thing, though, when we talk about all these strategic options, particularly when you're considering the Germans, you have to factor in kind of the racial component and the I guess the political outlook, right? Nazi Germany's or Hitler's hatred of the Jews and his desire to expand to the east are political questions, but they're going to override military considerations in his mind.
Yeah, I especially given recent news, but I wonder how many people on top need to be with the program for everybody else in Germany to follow. Right. So, is it, I mean, Hitler has got he's got a dictatorship going, but they're still paying attention to public,
very closely.
public opinion. So, but it seems like that they just feel like they can kind of go off and do what they want to do, and everybody else is just going to come along, and they do. And
Well, I mean, I mean, Liz Mumford mentions in her comment, it's hubris, right? It's you started to believe your own propaganda, I guess. Right.
So, guys, this is History Happy Hour, and our guest today, Tim Brady, author of the book A Light in the Northern Sea, was unable to join us through technical problems. They were kind of working on his internet, so we're going to not punish him for putting us on the spot. We're going to have him on some other time, and I'll bet he'll make really sure his internet's in great shape, and we'll be able to have the discussion we were having today. So please, we're going to try to stay away from questions about his book, because we want to save that for our discussion.
Talk about it.
With us to talk about it. So let us, if you have a general question, World War II question, and you want to let us know that, we'll try to take it up. Chris, Wally asked a question, and he's focusing on Albert Kesselring, and I think he's somebody worth talking about, because he proves in Russia and he proves in Italy to be a master of the defensive battlefield. Is he a guy who should have been promoted higher, or is he just kind of doing well where he is? Would he have been helpful to Germany under other circumstances? What's your? His nickname was Smiling Al, which is somewhat at odds with his reputation. Yeah. What's your take on him?
Well, I mean, I think he's a vile, low human being with very little commendable qualities.
So, in other words, he's another German general.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that he performs very, very well in Italy, given the resources he has. But I think that a lot of that is directly related to the terrain in Italy. He's got a lot of ground that he can defend. Whereas if you park him in the steppes of Russia, that's a whole different proposition. And I just don't, I don't think that he's going to do any better in Russia, and I don't think he's going to stop anybody. He was given commands elsewhere during the war, and I wouldn't say that he's brilliant. I'd say he's competent, but I think Italy is Hitler's biggest.
Wasn't he a Luftwaffe general?
He'd served in the army in World War I, and like a lot of ambitious officers at the end of the war, the Luftwaffe is kind of the Third Reich's darling, and Goering, at least initially, is the star of the show. So there are people that jump on board that train. So he's a Luftwaffe general, but I mean his training and background and inclination as an army officer. So, what do you think of Kesselring?
I think he comes up as you say, he's very competent in Italy, and he almost throws the Allies back on the beach back into the ocean at Salerno, as well as at Anzio. He's manning the forces very, very well there, and he proves a real hard nut to crack for all the American generals who come up there, and drives Mark Clark crazy. Of course, Mark Clark is also driving the other American generals crazy.
Yeah.
One of the things that I'm always thinking about, and I don't want to sit here and vent against Rick Atkinson at length. So I just want to vent against him for a small time. Un peu. How do you say a little in Italian? Yeah, nobody knows. So he un pico in Spanish, un peu in French, and someone will tell us on the chat. But he has this entire volume of his 3-volume series on the European War, on the Italian War, and it ends with the taking of Rome.
Yes.
In June 1944, on the same day or the day before the D-Day invasion, and
Yeah.
then he wraps it up. And it's like, hello, we're fighting there for the next 9 months, and it's
Well,
slowly grinding north. And the whole involvement of the Japanese regiment from Hawaii comes later, the involvement of the Ghost Army and
oh, you had to
deceptions
work
that they're
that. You had to
doing.
work
Yeah, I
that in. You
got it
had to
in. I
work
got it
that
in.
in. That was
Cheers.
very
Cheers to
good.
that. Yeah. So, all comes later, and he misses those. So, I think of Kesslering, I go to Atkinson, and I start venting.
Oh, okay. Well, just to kind of fill you in, but it's interesting. So obviously I'm preparing for kind of a Italy part 2 tour, and we're going to go from Rome north. And one of the things that's so striking is, when you start to prepare for these trips, it's a really tall stack of books that deal with the war up to Rome, and your references and your resources north of Rome, it goes, So, in defense of Mr. Atkinson,
Whoa, whoa, okay.
maybe there just wasn't so much. I mean, but all kidding aside, I mean the argument can be made that it's a really unnecessary campaign.
Yeah, but if
That's
you're a
not to.
soldier in
Oh
that
yeah, no,
campaign,
absolutely,
and
yeah, sure,
your family is a family of a soldier,
yeah,
you buy a book about the campaign, and then it
yeah,
ends halfway through the campaign. That
yeah.
just seems kind of bad.
Well, next time Rick and I are together, I'll bring it up and I'll say,
Yeah, well,
I'll say,
maybe I will too. If we ever have him on, we can
and I'll
say,
say, why wasn't the Ghost Army mentioned?
well, I'll tell you, I will talk about the Ghost Army
That would
literally
have made all the difference.
because we have to fill time. So it's
Oh
all
wait,
good. It's all
so you just started. This is going to be like
good.
what
Just
Freebird here. I'll
just go read a newspaper. No, so I went to when I was in the UK last. I visited the archives in Kew, took the train out from London and
yeah.
walked to the archives to do research because the 3133rd, which was the sonic deception unit, American sonic deception unit that was employed in at least 2 operations along the Gothic line in April of 1945, worked alongside a British unit. And I
Well,
wanted to.
wait. You always told me that every time I was like, the British were doing deception. You're like, oh no, you go on and on about. So let's talk more about British deception operations.
Okay.
No, sorry.
Yeah. Not sure I agree with that completely,
Okay,
but
okay.
maybe partially. But they worked with a group that was the 101st Royal Tank Battalion.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't actually looked at it since I came back. I've been in November when I get time again, I'm going to sit down and go through all this stuff. But they'd actually been doing deceptions, visual deceptions in Italy for several years at that point, and using inflatables and getting involved in various things. And according to their records, they did 3 deceptions with the American 3133rd. And in one of them, the 3133rd is playing sound, and the British are putting the inflatable tanks out. And the tanks are shelled. The inflatable tanks are shelled, and 2/3 of them are destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
So this was clearly a successful deception if it's drawing German artillery fire. So I'd be happy to try to pinpoint that location and give it to you, because I'm sure people will respond here that they would love to come see that.
Oh, I'm sure that would be what got them on the plane.
Okay, your turn to pick up. Your turn to take the conversation someplace.
No.
We were losing viewers for a while. We've gained some viewers.
Yeah,
I
'cause
think
we're
it's the
arguing
Ghost
again.
Army. Yeah.
It's because we're arguing about the Ghost Army.
Okay.
But no, I mean it's so it's I'm looking. It's an interesting campaign, Northern Italy, and it certainly does not get written enough about. But in terms of strategic importance, that's different. But
So, David Picker has a question. Thank God. After the fall of France, what's the two-front war? If Hitler does not, he's talking to Sharon, who's made another point. If Hitler does not invade the Soviet Union, he sits pretty. The UK does not have the industrial or military strength to defeat Hitler. Well, this is one of the questions. So Hitler invades Germany, and of course, this proves to be
Hitler invades Germany.
Hitler invades Russia.
Oh, okay, yeah, that one. Okay.
He did. The other big country.
That
there,
other
the,
big
the much
country.
bigger country.
Okay.
The one where they speak Russian. Okay,
Oh,
what's that
okay.
called? Russia.
Okay.
And of course he bites off way more than they can chew. They're held off outside of Moscow in December 1942. They are held off at Stalingrad in I'm sorry, they held off outside of Moscow in December 41. They held off at Stalingrad in the fall of 42. What if Hitler hadn't attacked Russia? How does that change what happens in World War II? And would Russia have attacked Hitler?
He can't not attack Russia. That's just an impossible scenario.
Why?
Because that's one of the bedrock foundations of National Socialism and his racial view of the world. I mean, you can't. I just don't see a scenario where he doesn't go to war with Russia, and for that matter, at some point, those two are going to start butting heads with one another. But
what if he'd waited? What if he'd waited a year, build up his troops, make nice to England and the U.S., act like he's not really at war with them, and then invades Russia?
England is already at war when he goes into Poland.
Right. Well, they're at war.
What do you mean they're at war?
What is England doing when he goes into Poland?
Well, they're starting a strategic bombing campaign.
In 39?
Well, no, but they're building.
They're building toward it, but they're not doing much yet. I mean, there's
You're not talking about 39. You're talking about when he invades Russia in 41.
Right.
So I just don't see a scenario where Hitler doesn't go into the East. It's a racial war, and he wants to go to war with the Slavs. So, yeah, I mean, I guess theoretically, if he doesn't invade Russia, then he and Ava can hang out in Berchtesgaden and sip tea on the patio. But I just don't know. I just don't see him not
up there at the Eagle's Nest. We've had a lot more pictures of Hitler and Ava Braun at the in his lovely in the Berghof or at the Eagle's Nest. And somebody's asking, will this episode be archived? That's my friend.
I don't know if we should do that.
I think will this episode be destroyed is a better question.
Oh, yeah.
Much better question. All right, you can ask me a question.
Okay. We get a lot of questions about tours and tours in general, and we can just touch on that briefly.
Sure. Yeah. Talk about the SOE. You want to talk about the SOE tour?
Yeah, well, we'll start about that. So that's going to be in April next year. I don't have my calendar in front of me, but I know it's in April. And at this point, I'll be leading that, and it's going to be.
You don't know anything about the SOE. How can you lead that?
Because I was in London during lockdown for
you'll do a lot of reading.
That's all I could do. No, so we're going to follow the creation and the birth of the SOE. So we'll be doing 3 or 4 days here in London, seeing a lot of sites associated with SOE, founding of SOE, British special ops and espionage and all that sort of spy stuff here in London. And then we have a number of sites outside the city where we're going to go to some of the
places that they trained.
Well, yeah, but specifically like, the estates where the Poles trained versus where the Norwegians trained versus where the French trained. So we'll do all that. We're going to go to one of the sites where they built all the special, cool, secret spy stuff, You're going
to go up to Scotland? There's a SOE training site in Scotland.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to get that far north.
It's a long ways away.
Yeah, but we are going to go...
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, to see where some of that happened. And then we're also going to go to the Shuttleworth collection because they have a surviving Lysander. So,
oh wow,
we're going to get inside a Lysander, which is pretty neat.
Yeah.
And then we're going to go to the farm where all the agents took off from. So we'll see where Violet Szabo, took off from on her final mission. So it's going to be really neat.
Did you
Be like
go?
10
Do you go?
days.
There's the guys who were involved in the assassination of Heydrich,
Hmm.
trained at Walton Hall.
Yep.
Are you
Yeah,
going to go there?
that's on the list.
The
Also on the list.
Chris. You know who else trained at Walton
Yeah, but
Hall, don't you?
this is an SOE tour, so I don't have to mention them.
Well, you have to. If you don't
On the
mention
way
it,
out. On the way out.
at least on the bus back to,
All right. Well, that's fine. Okay,
back
I'll
to
do that for you.
London.
I'll do that for you.
I would
Uh,
like to put a historical marker up there for the Ghost Army, but I haven't.
Rick, you'd like to put a
I,
historical marker up everywhere they park their trucks.
yes,
Yes.
absolutely, absolutely. You are totally
So wait, well, I thought we were
correct.
talking about my SOE tour, not yours.
No, we were, but I
Oh,
just wanted to know where it
okay.
intersects with the Ghost Army and what you're going to do about that.
Okay. What am I going to do about that? Yeah. So we're trying to find plan some obviously some special access to some places.
Well, and you took
Uh,
me on a great walk that I later
yeah.
turned into a walk for one of my tours on Baker Street. Lots of stuff there related
Yeah.
to SOE and also the Sig Sally. You
Yep.
probably would stop and see that, and then the different offices that they had, and some of those buildings are still there.
Yeah.
And
The other thing, the other is the when we had
this is so
the
hard to
hall.
do when we haven't prepared any
Yeah, I
notes, right?
know.
We're
I'm trying
trying
to
to
remember names.
draw on our memory for all this stuff.
No, but the estate just outside of London where they did all the wiretaps of the German generals.
Oh, right, right, right.
Yep.
Yes, I don't know. I don't remember the
Yep.
name, but that's Helen would be able to tell us.
Yeah.
Helen
Well, in fact,
Fry.
we're talking to Helen to see have her
See, get
come
her
to the
be
group.
involved in the
Yeah.
trip. Yeah,
So
fantastic.
anyway, so it's going to be really great. So that will be on tour. And Cheryl's already signed up, so somebody's going.
Well, the trip that I'm doing next year is that's new is campaigns of George Washington. He was a great British officer who was
British wannabe officer
he was turned down by the
for
British. So
incompetence.
yeah, he did pretty well. So anyway, we're gonna follow in I think it's in October. I don't have the dates, but I know we have people out there with dates who can look it up. So you guys can put the dates up if you want to. We're gonna start at West Point,
Yeah.
which is where Benedict Arnold tried to give West Point to the British, and with the help of John Andre, and failed. And then we're going to go down and spend a couple of days on the Battle of New York, which is, I got to say, just a challenging thing to bring people to Battle of New York sites because it turns out there's a big fucking
City in the
city
way.
there. There is. It's
I hate when
crazy.
that happens. I
It's
hate when that
crazy.
happens.
There's all these buildings and stuff, but
Oh.
there's some really neat sites. One of them's in a cemetery, where it's a cemetery now, but it was a battlefield.
Mhm.
And it's a cemetery in Brooklyn. We're going to go to a few different sites in Brooklyn. We're going to visit Fraunces Tavern in Manhattan. We're going to go up to see where the Battle of Harlem Heights takes place, which is now, if we're lucky, there'll be some sort of police attack or defense of Columbia University, because that's right where we're going to be.
Cool.
If our bus gets out and we get a bunch of people out, maybe we'll all get detained, but hopefully not. But it's actually very cool. You can stand up there and see the ground has changed a lot, but it's similar enough that you can get a sense of where that attack was. And then we go down to New Jersey and all the battlefields in New Jersey, the crossing of the Delaware, the Battle of Monmouth. I'm missing a battle. I always miss a battle in New Jersey.
Any that my guys won?
A
Or are they gonna
Brandy.
be
No, Brandywine. Brandywine. Your guys won at Brandywine, and also there's another one where we won, where we killed a bunch of Hessians. Which is where is that? It's right across the river from Philadelphia. What's the name of that? Don't remember. Anyway, we end up in Philadelphia, Liberty Bell, the whole thing. So that's a week in October of 26, and looking forward to that because I just scouted it this spring, and we haven't led people on, and that is kind of the third piece of our Revolutionary War tours. So that then we have Boston to Quebec for the first 2 years, campaigns of George Washington for the middle years, and then Charleston to Yorktown for the final 2 years.
When are we going to do the British burning down the White House tour?
The War of 1812 tour?
Yeah.
Well, I think we have to go up and see some sites
Oh,
in
okay.
along the Canadian border
Oh.
and along the Great Lakes and
Well, I am kind of.
New Orleans. New Orleans, great
Yeah.
site. And we can probably fit Washington in there as well.
Well, I'm going to be going in November. I'm going to Ireland to start working on the my military history of Ireland trip. So that one should be
Oh,
good.
wow. That sounds like a deep dive. Are you going to visit with our friend there at the
Jonathan, David Murphy.
David
Gonna visit
Murphy's,
with
who I was
David. Yeah.
thinking of? Jonathan's also our friend.
Yeah. Well, he
He's
left though, so he's not in Ireland anymore. But yeah, so that should be good. So I'm excited about that, and I had a lot of interest on the Scottish trip about people that want to kind of do Ireland. So hopefully
Oh,
that will.
fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah.
I have some people have been asking me about the next Ghost Army tour, and there isn't one right now because
Mm.
interest in it hasn't been overwhelming. And
Well, you add that British deception unit, man. I'm telling you,
yeah, then
it's gonna go
suddenly, yeah,
places.
the Italian Ghost Army tour will be big. And so right now I'm doing World War II and American Revolution and, just hanging out in those corners.
All right.
So, and what's your next trip?
My
You must leave in a week.
Yeah. Well, I'm going back to Poland. So we're gonna do our Poland trip, and then I'll spend a couple extra days in Berlin. Want at the end of it to kind of do some poking around, and then I come home for I think 4 or 5 days in the Band of Brothers again. Uh, yeah,
And
and then
when's your last trip of the summer or of the year? Well, your Battle of
uh,
the Bulge would be your last trip,
yeah,
right,
no,
in
I do.
December.
I'm in Italy for a month, and then Battle of the Bulge, and then Ireland in November, and then Battle of the Bulge in December.
You're a
And you?
busy guy. Oh no,
I am a busy guy.
I have two trips. I have Market Garden to the Alps and Boston to Quebec, American Revolution, Boston to
Okay.
Quebec, and
Does it turn out differently this time?
the Market Garden to the Alps
Maybe.
changed a little bit, and we added to that. I'm going to take people to Remagen,
Oh,
so I'm excited about that, and we're going to visit Compiègne.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I know. I owe you something about that.
I thought you did that. You
I know.
think
I
I'm getting
remember.
Ghost Army and I
I
got
remembered.
Compiègne
I
and I'm getting,
remembered. All right.
but I did some William Shirer research because you had mentioned him, and that was a good lead. But I look forward to seeing what you send on
Okay.
that. I'll borrow, copy, whatever I can from that. And
Absolutely.
my goal is just to talk nonstop from the moment I get on the
I
bus
do.
in Paris to the moment I get off in Munich on the last night of the trip.
That's why all the other historians call you Sparky.
Nobody calls me Sparky. No one has ever called me Sparky, and I'd be okay if they did.
Okay.
They've
Okay.
called me a lot of things, which we will not go into here. But
All right.
somebody says, what books on General Washington do you recommend for the 2026 tours? I
Andrew
will.
Roberts, The Last King of America. Oh, sorry.
Oh yeah, I'll put it up on the website.
Okay.
I don't have at the drop of a hat. I don't have a title for you, Casey, but I'll put it up on my website on this website, on the History Happy Hour website in the next day or so, and we'll get that there. But okay, Chris, we're close enough. We can.
Well,
Well, we're
okay.
50. Did you? No.
I think.
If you want to talk more, I am happy to go
I
on. We
haven't.
can go an hour and a half if you want. Go ahead. What do you
No, no,
got?
I haven't. I haven't slept in 2 weeks. I just trying to make sure we've answered, like, kind of touched on the bulk of the questions.
Oh, Trenton. Yeah. Wally Morrison says Trenton. I was thinking of battles, the Battle of Trenton and the Battle of Princeton, which is a cool little battlefield, the Princeton battlefield.
Yeah.
And it's also great. And it's a mile away from Princeton University. And they've got a building there, which was kind of the target for Washington.
Yes.
And the Americans attacked. The British in this building took a bunch of prisoners. So in that building, Nassau Hall, I think.
Nassau Hall.
Yeah, it's still there. So,
And the president of Princeton at the time, whose name, not Hume, whom, anyway, he was captured at the Battle of Falkirk during the Jacobite Rebellion, and later on went to Princeton. So there's my connection with my recently completed tour.
Well, there was you're going to remember the names here in the battle. Names I'm not going to remember, but there's a woman in the rebellion who's involved in the battle down in North Carolina, right?
Flora McDonald.
Right at the bridge, the
Moores Creek
Bridge, right? Yeah. And yeah, there's interesting connections, like
Jacobites
those things
everywhere
don't seem connected, and yet somehow they are. I noticed nobody else is making comments now, so I think they're done. So,
all right. So when we actually have an author back to talk about something relevant, what are we talking about next week?
Wait, let me pull it up here. We've got we're going to go to the Civil War and deal with the last year of the Civil War. And our guest is Scott Ellsworth, and his book is Midnight on the Potomac. And we're going to make sure that he joins us on Friday, and that his internet is strong, and we don't have to, because I don't mind doing this every 6 months or so, but I don't want to do it 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, and I like doing it when we can prepare a little bit for it.
Right, when we can ask people for some questions in advance, and we can think up some zingy one-liners to give out, and not just have to come up and go, the thing that with the guy who was in the place. Yeah, it's tough. But that's what's gone for next week. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Please subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Facebook, shout at us on Blue Sky, listen to our podcast, and back us on History Happy Hour at patreon.com, and check us out at History Happy Hour. I don't know what's going on.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Be safe.